Hello Vine friends, welcome back to my channel. Today we have a lot of things in store for you. I have so many plant chores that I need to get done that I figure why not bring you guys along. I have some things that need to be chopped down. I have some things that need to be repotted. And before we get started, I wanted to share some success stories with you. I finally figured out, since it's bloomed, that this is a geranium. And I wanted to share that beautiful red bloom with you. I have this in my Millsbow cabinet, and it seems to love all of that humidity in there, and it's just growing in some leca and perlite at the bottom. I put the perlite at the bottom because I had it rooting in perlite, and so I just took it out of the perlite that it was in and added it to this glass and just poured the leca on top of it, just because I didn't have enough perlite to fill the whole thing up. But it's doing quite well. It likes being in here, and I see lots and lots of roots. They are thin, but they're all through the perlite, so very happy about that. And it even has more little blooms down here at the bottom that are going to be popping out anytime, but I don't know if the top ones are going to die off before the other ones bloom. But this is a really interesting plant that I'm growing. I actually saw this in a restaurant and asked for a cutting, and they gave it to me. And so, like, I've just been trying to grow it the best I could. I didn't know what it was for the longest time, but since it bloomed, I was able to Google it, and it's a geranium. So just wanted to share that beautiful red bloom with you guys. And then another one of my success stories is this. I used to have all of my plants in here that needed higher, humidity, and they were smaller plants until I moved them over into my IKEA Akbar cabinet. And then once that was all filled up, I didn't have any use for this one anymore. And then I got these two Hoyas. I've had these Hoyas for maybe around 2 months, maybe. But I got these at the same time that I got my Hoya Pachaclata. Halfway through filming, I realized I didn't have my mic on, so hopefully now the audio quality will be much better. But as I was saying, I got these. This is a variegated Hoya Wyetii, and I saw this one. I saw the Hoya Pachaclata, and I saw this. What is this one? There's the name tag. Incrusata Eclipse. This Incrusata Eclipse, I thought for sure was a goner, but I'm actually seeing some new growth trying to emerge. I don't see any roots on it yet, but the leaves are now firming up. They are not as wrinkled as they were when I put it in here. I think it's only been here in this thing for about 2 weeks. But the Hoya Wyetii is actually thriving, and it has roots coming out of the top portion right there. I don't know if you can see those roots right there, but the roots are going crazy on this Wyetii. And I have had to cut it in half because half of it was thriving, but the other half was not. So I cut it maybe 3 days ago and stuck it down in there because it had roots on the part that I cut, and the leaves have already firmed up very nicely. So I'm really happy about the progress on this one, and I just thought I would share that with you. This is my variegated Hoya Wyetii that's on the comeback, and my Encrusata Eclipse that's on the comeback as well. So I'm very, very excited about the progress of these two. I'm going to put them back in here and let them continue to establish their roots. And put them back in their place. They sit on top of my IKEA Acker bar. And this one goes in my Millsbow cabinet. So now that we have shared some successes, we need to talk about some things that need to be fixed. First of all, I think I will start with my Philodendron Eopii. So this guy has been getting a very leggy, and it's growing. It's constantly giving out new growth. Giving out new growth. And I just want to put it in a bigger pot because this one keeps drying out so quickly that I can't keep up with the watering, and I don't want it to affect the new growth. So I have decided that I'm going to put it in one of these self-watering pots because I'm going to put the leca in here. As a matter of fact, I've already put a little bit of leca at the bottom, and you can see it has this window, so I can tell, even though the pot isn't clear, it has this clear window, so I'll be able to tell when this plant needs to be watered. So I'm just going to go ahead and pop it out of its old pot and put it into this new pot. And I actually am going to get a pole to put this on as well because this needs to be on a moss pole. So give me a second and let me go grab one. Okay, I'm back. And today is my lucky day because I don't have to put this moss pole together because I did it already for another plant that either I've taken this moss pole out of it or it never got in there. But I see an indentation where I used to have the water bottle in there. So I don't remember which plant I took this from, but perfect. It's going in here now. So I'm going to make sure that this little window is in the front so that I can see when the plant needs to be watered. Just going to pop this in here, and I've now just backfilled the leca into the moss pole through the holes, which is working out much better. Now I have all of the leca filled in inside the pot. Now I'm just going to pour the rest of this leca off of the plant and into the pot. Well, actually, I'm going to pour it on this one because I don't want it to be too full. This plant hasn't even been in that pot for very long, but look, it has grown around the wicking stick. So let me just try and pull that out of there. All right. So let me just see which way it needs to go. It looks like the majority of the aerial roots are on this side, so I'm going to put it in there that way. Okay. Now I'm just going to put the leca balls back in there. Backfill it. And I am really excited about how fast this philodendron yobei has been growing. It's been doing really, really well. And hopefully now that it's on this pole, it'll start sizing up for me. I can already tell that, you know, when I first got it, the leaves were very juvenile and they didn't have the little lobes on them. But as you can see, the newer ones do have these little lobes that I absolutely love. I don't know why this plant makes me smile, but it reminds me of a moose's head. Okay, so now I'm just going to put some tape on it to hold it in place while I continue to put the leca in the reservoir. Okay, that should be enough. And I'm just going to make sure that the stem is touching the moss, and it's actually perfect because there's a hole right where the aerial roots are. So it lined up perfectly. There. Now, I just want to encourage it to grow into there. Actually, I think I'm going to put another piece of tape down here just to make sure. Just going to make sure there's no leaves in there. Only stem. Okay. I'm going to encourage it to be very, very tight on this one because there's so much space between the plant and the pole. There. All right. And that's going to be good. Good to go. All right. I'm just going to finish off putting the leca in here. Make sure I get some behind this pole. I want it to be very sturdy in there. Okay, that's how that one looks. Just going to go ahead and put some nutrient water in here. I have the Growth Technology Clonex solution and water in here, so I'm just going to pour it in here to minimize the shock for the roots. And I can see in my little window that it's full. The reservoir is good to go, so just going to sit this one to the side. So next up, we have my, this is my philodendron gloriosum that is in this little self-watering pot, but it's basically just literally just sitting in there with no support or anything, and it's so top heavy that this little pot is not sturdy enough to keep it standing up. And I'm going to be giving it this little pole to help it be a little bit more stable and not flopping over so much. and hopefully it'll encourage it to grow up straighter. I'm giving it this coco coir pole instead of a moss pole because looking at the roots, it doesn't seem like the aerial roots are like they are on, let's say, that philodendron yopii, or even this a Syngonium albo, where I can see the roots, actually the aerial roots growing out of there. These are so tiny that I think just giving it this coco coir pole as a support will suffice. So, and this one is in soil, and I normally try and get my plants out of soil and put them into either leca or pond, but I really don't want to lose this little leaf that's coming in. And I've noticed that every leaf that has grown since I've had this has been bigger than the last one. And I don't want to stunt the growth on that. So I'm going to keep this in soil until the summer. And then I will revisit maybe repotting it into a different substrate. But we'll see when the time comes. So this is a self-watering pot that I got from IKEA, and I'm just going to reuse this old wicking rope that I had in the other thing that I just took out. Okay, let me grab my potting mix. So this is just my DIY mix. I have the Miracle Grow Tropical Blend in here, as well as I put a lot more orchid bark and perlite into this mix and just mix it all up real good so that it'll be nice and airy and well draining for this plant. So yeah, let's just go ahead and put some in the bottom. And it literally just pops right out of here. So let me just take this wicking rope out. And I'm burying the wicking rope that's in here so that it doesn't get connected to the roots like that one did. That is one of the drawbacks to using those wicking ropes, because they do tend to get caught up in the roots of these plants really easily. And I'm just trying to see where I want this to be. Okay. Just going to put this down on the side, and that seems to be good. The bad part about this is that I didn't put one on there sooner. So you can see that this, oh, you can't see. So you can see that this stem right here is actually curving. It curves over and then up. So I'm going to connect it in two different places to the pole. Actually, it only has this one little thing of aerial root. So there's another one here. I don't know. I'll put two just to be on the safe side. So let me just measure how much I'll need for each one of them. That should be enough for one. And two. I have been needing to get this stuff done for quite a while, but there's just never enough time in the day to get everything that you want done. So you just have to make your priorities, identify what your priorities are, and then work from there. And this is supposed to be a relaxing hobby, so I don't let these plant chores or the lack of getting them done get to me. I'll get it when I can get it. Okay. I have my stem all secured, and unfortunately, because I secured it that way, the base of the plant is now turned, but there. So I was able to set it more upright. Put some more in the bottom. There. That's better. So now I'm just going to fill it in around it. And this right here is also a success story for this plant, because I got this plant off of the clearance rack, as I have with a lot of my other plants. And it has really just thrived. So I really love getting those plants off of the clearance rack that there's absolutely nothing wrong with them other than needing a little bit of TLC to be their best self. And this one has definitely been a joy to watch grow. And I love the fact that, you know, wherever the light is, that's where these leaves are going to face. So just because I'm putting it in here, you know, like this, the fact that I'm going to put it in front of the light, the grow light, all of the leaves will then start facing this way. So that one is all done. Let me just put it on its base. Where's that? Okay. Okay. Now that is on there. That's how that one looks on its new moss pole or cocoa coir pole. And it's not going to flop over anymore. It's way more stable in its pot. The next thing that I'm going to tackle is this little syngonium. I love the pot that this is in, but That's just a cache pot. And as you can see, the roots have grown out of the bottom because it really needs more water. And it just dries out so quickly in this small little pot that I'm just going to give it a little bit bigger pot, and it's going to be in a self-watering pot at that, with this little water indicator, so I can tell when it needs to be watered. Not that this syngonium is shy about telling me when it needs to be watered, because when it needs to be watered, it looks like this. It just faints. And I have not given it any water because I knew I was going to be repotting it. So trying to save the roots. Yay, I didn't lose one root. That's awesome. Okay, so now let me just put a little bit, and it's ready. It was ready to come out of that small pot. And like the other one, I'm not going to take it out of the soil that it's in. Just we'll do that in the summertime or the next time it needs to be repotted, because these things grow so fast. I know it's going to need to be repotted soon. So maybe I'll put it in pond or leca at that point, but not right now. Okay. All right. That is what that one looks like. I'm going to go ahead and fill up its reservoir as well. And I didn't fill up the reservoir for the other one, but I'll do that next. And since it's the first time going into this type of pot, I'm watering it from the top. Turn it so you can see the little water indicator there. Yeah, I don't like the fact that these things get stuck a lot. So that's annoying, but what are you going to do? Okay, that one is all done. Okay, the next thing on the list is my Syngonium albo. For this one, I am going to be putting it into a combination of leca balls as well as sphagnum moss, because I am going to be chopping this bad boy, and I love how bushy it looks down here, but it's just growing straight up, and it has already outgrown the little flimsy support pole that I have it on. So I'm going to go ahead and chop it up, because there is a green stem, all green stem, and an elbow stem in here. So I'm going to cut it down to about right here, and I'm going to chop I'm going to chop between each one of the nodes on the elbow version of it, because I want more of that elbow than the green. However, I'm not going to get rid of the green. I'm going to keep it in there, because if the green wasn't in there, this plant would look really sad and stringy. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut it, and then I'm going to put it in here. I already put some leca at the bottom, and then I'm going to fill in moss around it, and hopefully it likes that setup. because I want to, I don't know if I'm going to put it in a semi-hydro or what type of medium I'm going to grow this in. We'll see over the summer. But it has some really, really good aerial roots, if you can see that right there. So I'm just going to start cutting between each one of the nodes. Oh, okay. Okay, and this is the top cutting. So I'm going to just leave this the way that it is and put it in here with, I actually could cut this leaf off. Yeah, I think well, yeah, I'm going to leave it the way that it is. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cuttings from that one stem. So I'm going to put it in here and then just fill moss around it. And hopefully it'll root up pretty quickly. I actually feel like I could probably just put it in the soil right now and call it a day, but I'm gonna do my due diligence to ensure that it is able to get roots. And this is just sphagnum moss that I already pre-moistened. So I'm just gonna put around the cuttings that I just made. And the leca balls are just acting as a reservoir at the bottom for when I need to put more water in here just to keep the moss moist. Just making sure it's all of it, the aerial roots are covered up in there. All right. That's what that one looks like. All of the elbow cuttings in one. And I'm just going to do the same thing for the green form of this. And I'm not nervous about this at all because I feel like this plant has more than enough aerial roots to make sure that these cuttings are successful. That's the top one, and I'm just going to leave the roots, leave the bottom on that one as well. There we go. All of them are facing the same way. And I'm just going to put the wet moss around the bottom where those aerial roots are. There we go. Now I just need to put some nutrient water in there. But the sphagnum moss is pretty moist, so I may just give it a day or two and let it get acclimated in there before I give it any more water. So that's what that one looks like. Both of them are potted up in their own respective pots, but I think in the end, depending on how things go, I'm thinking that I'm probably going to end up potting them back together, but we'll see. I got a lot of different cuttings in there, so maybe that one will be bushy enough for me on its own. And then this one right here, I'm not going to do anything other than that to this one. Just put its little clips back on and clip it back to this pole and put it back in its spot. Okay. That's what that one looks like in the end. And we're all done with that one. We are just flying through these chores. This is my philodendron verrucosum sincii and insensii. I'll put it on the screen. But this is a very prolific grower. And I really love this plant. Another rescue plant, and you've probably heard the story. If you've been on my channel for a minute, you have heard the story about me rescuing this from Home Depot, and all of the leaves were yellowing and crisped up and just like all gnarled up and did not look good at all. So I was pleasantly surprised when I was able to revive this plant and get it to looking the way that it is now. And as you can see, it has new growth shooting up all over the place. This is a new leaf that has just unfurled. It literally just unfurled. And then this one just unfurled. And that's because they're on two different offshoots. Like this is one shoot, and this bigger leaf up here is on a different shoot. And what's happening is it's growing off of the moss pole. So this little shoot right here is now reaching behind the moss pole, and I've had it sitting in this west facing window since I brought it back. Is that a south facing window? I think, no, it's a south facing window. And the problem is, I think that the light is too harsh because it's actually turning its leaves away from the light, if you can see that. And I thought, oh, I'm just going to put it right here in front of the window and it's going to love it. And all of the leaves are going to grow facing the light from the sun. But no. And it's been getting this crisping on the leaves, which I really don't like either. So I'm just going to try and reposition this vine that's down here. And then I'm going to cut the vine that's up here. The problem is that this vine down here has already gotten one of its aerial roots firmly embedded into this moss pole. So I'm going to have to cut that aerial root. I'm going to try and save a little bit of it so that I can put it into the moss pole on this side and try and straighten up this vine. And then the vine for this leaf, I'm going to probably just chop it off and start a new plant just because I love this plant. I don't want anything to happen to it. And I always want to have insurance whenever I love a plant. So I'm going to chop one part off to propagate and then the other one to try and reposition. So let me just go ahead and chop the part off that I want to root on its own. Actually, I can't do that. I have to cut the other one first. So I want to get as much as that root out of there as I can. So, okay, it's free now. Now that vine is free. Let me try and coax it over to the other side where it will have more room. Try and turn it around so you can see what I'm doing. So I freed this little, oh, well, it looks like that's going to be my cutting. I thought I would be able to maneuver it around on the other side, but it just fell right off. So that's okay. I'm not concerned about that. I knew that there could be a risk that that would happen, but I wanted it to stay on that pole, but it's okay. Let me cut the other one off as well. It's going to be really bare, so I'm hoping that this chop is going to encourage it to grow more shoots at the bottom to cover this bare stem, but we'll see. Oh wow, that one has an aerial root that's inside the moss pole as well. I'm just trying to get this one off of this moss pole now. It had several roots already rooted into the pole. So that's what I'm left with on this one. It looks very bare bones right now, but that's okay. So this leaf looks like it's not going to make it, so I'm going to go ahead and pull that one off. And we have some roots to work with, but I'm really not concerned about that. I'm just going to pop this into some perlite and root it with the other one. Probably going to lose some of these leaves, which is unfortunate, but hey, it's for the greater good. And I didn't like this leaf anyway because when it was growing in, something ate it while it was still furled up. And so when it unfurled, it was just like this. And it's so bad. It's such a shame because this would have been such a cute little leaf. But as you can see, the next one that grew out is much bigger and so pretty. Look at that veining. I love the veining and how velvety the leaves are, and when they grow in, they have this beautiful red on the back, but as they age, that red goes away. You can tell the difference between the new leaf and the old one that just came off. So let me go and get some perlite to put these down in and start their rooting process. I'm just going to use this little plastic container, and I have a little bit of perlite left, so hopefully it will last. this leaf right here, you can see hasn't even hardened off yet. So hopefully we don't lose him in the process here. There. Put some of my little solution in here, nutrient solution. Making sure I get some around that aerial root. So that's what this one looks like. I'm going to put this one in my cabinet because I don't want anything to happen to this one, and I want to give it the best survival rate as possible. So, all right, let me clean up this mess. So I almost forgot that I also have this variegated golden dragon that is not so variegated anymore. When I bought it, it had these leaves already, but the rest of the leaves that have grown in my care have been all green, and that's really not what I bought this plant for. So I'm going to chop this plant as well, and I'm going to pot up the variegated pieces of this plant to hopefully get a more bushier and more variegated version of this plant. So let's go ahead and get right into that. And I did already chop this thing in half when I brought it home, but no luck. It's currently potted up in fluval stratum right now. So let me just get something. Oh, I could put it in here. Because fluval stratum is very messy. And this is a really good grower as well. It's, as you can see, the roots have really gotten settled into this pot. Okay, I'm getting more of it. Yay. Okay, here it comes. A little bit of persistence pays off. Okay. So when I got it, it was in fluval stratum. And I left the root ball intact and then put it in more fluval stratum and perlite mixture. And it really likes that mixture. But now the roots are inseparable. I can see the variegation on this stem right here. The top part is green and the underside is like a creamy yellowish color. But the stem itself is very much losing the variegation as it's growing up. So what I plan on doing is leaving just a couple of leaves at the bottom. So probably actually I'm going to just leave one leaf at the bottom. No, I better leave 2. Yeah, I'm going to leave 2. And there is an aerial root holding on for dear life, and it has rooted into the other substrate. So this is what we're working with. I'm going to put this part back in its fluval stratum since it likes being in there so much, and put it right back in where I got it from. And that is not okay. A little bit on the top because there's roots growing out of the top part of it. That's what we're left with for this one. And then for this one, I'm going to use the perlite. No, I'm going to use the sphagnum moss. This leaf is just, well, I was going to cut that off, but I'm going to keep it because I can see that there's variegation on the stem. So hopefully, and he has a pretty established aerial root as well. So I don't even know if this one has, oh yeah, I do see that there is another growth point on there. So that's good. So I'm just going to cut this one off here. Just trying to make sure that it's pest free. Those are extra floral nectaries that are growing, but it's too bad that it's all green. So annoyed by that. And it looks like the next leaf that's growing in is going to be all green as well. So just going to put that one and this other total green one in together. Oh, I should have put it back in here, actually. And this completely green one. So I'm actually going to try and put it in with this one. Just because I don't want to have too many pots of green Florida Beauty. And I want it to face the same way that everybody else is facing. So just trying to make sure I get them in there the way that I want them to face. This one needs to be down a little bit further. was able to get it down further. Now just backfill. There. It's really full. Green. Full and green. With the exception of this one little gnarled up leaf. All right. So now we have 2 new growth points that, fingers crossed, we can get some more variegated leaves to grow from. And I'm going to try the same method with the leca at the bottom and the sphagnum moss around it. And it's going to go in my grow tent, my milk cabinet. And it's been in my milk cabinet. That's why the leaves are reaching up for the light, because the light is above where this was originally sitting in the cabinet. Just trying not to cover up the top of the part where I cut it, the stem where I cut it. I want those to be sticking out, or at least able to get some air. Okay, that's how those two look. There we go. I'm going to sit them on a shelf where they can face the light like this so that the leaves can come back down. But yeah, that's how that looks. And hopefully, fingers crossed, we can get something growing from these two cuttings. All right, plant friends, I have cleaned up my mess and I still have not drank my coffee or finished my cup yet, but I just wanted to touch base with you before I sign off, because this one is in leca and sphagnum moss. And the reason that I did that was because I already see that there are aerial roots that have developed on this plant. And I know that those aerial roots will root into the sphagnum moss and grow bigger roots. And so the leca, I can just use that as a reservoir to ensure that I can keep the sphagnum moss moist. And that's why I chose to pot this one in the medium that I decided. This one, there were no roots. It's going to have to develop roots from scratch. And I know that I have had success rooting things like this. As a matter of fact, I actually brought this plant back to life when I got it off the clearance rack in perlite. So that's why I chose the perlite, because this one doesn't have any roots at all. And I could have probably put it in the sphagnum moss as well, but I know that this works the perlite works for this plant, so that's the only reason that I chose this. So I hope that's not confusing for you guys, but I just wanted to let you know what my rationale was behind putting these in these separate potting mediums. And that's going to do it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time.